The Honourable Member for Mulcaham. Thank you, Madam Speaker. So, at the federal level, it's possible to vote on the day of the election. You can also vote in advance. You can do mail-in ballots. There are all sorts of options. There's campus voting. There are really many options. And yet, officially, this government is saying that it needs to accommodate Diwali for Indian communities, and that is how they're justifying putting off the date of the election. So this government is choosing to integrate the religious calendar to the electoral calendar. They are subordinating the rule of law to religious concerns. I'd like to hear from my colleague of what he thinks of this official reasoning.
For Saskatchewan.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. I think it's fair to say that I would have a bit of a different view of many aspects of the religious accommodation conversation than my colleagues. I do think that a free society, a rule of law society, should make efforts to ensure the protection of religious freedom, of the deeply held convictions of people. Religious freedom is a foundational aspect of human rights. It's in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights very clearly. That said, Madam Speaker, the member is right that there are many different ways and times that people can vote. I think if you have a situation in which the main election day, as well as advanced poll days and early voting days, also intersect with religious holidays for the same community, then I think you have a much greater problem. But in this case, I think this is just cover for the government. I don't think it's really about accommodation. I think it's fundamentally about their desire to delay the election as much as possible and benefit themselves in the process.
Questions and comments? The Honourable for Nanaimo Ladysmith.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the member. Madam Speaker, amongst the members' many useless slogans that were put forward once again today. One of them was around the Conservatives being clear and united. Now, I find that particularly interesting because listening to the member, he said he's not in support of this bill. Yet last night, the member from Calgary Confederation said very clearly that he would be in support of this bill unless, as long as there's an amendment to move the election date back. Now, Madam Speaker, I have made it clear that I will be putting forward an amendment to see this election date put back, because I agree we cannot be looking at legislation that will benefit members at a time when people are struggling to make ends meet. Now, my question to the member, Madam Speaker, is how can he continue to support and to sabotage, I should say, legislation that truly supports Canadians? Thank you.
Honourable Member for Sherwood Park for Saskatchewan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The worker bees in the NDP want to tell us about amendments that they might or will or intend to propose in the future. Let me tell you about an amendment Conservatives have already proposed that is already at present before the House. This is the amendment that I spoke to from the member for St. Albert Edmonton that would, on the basis of the attempt to delay the election, decline to give reading to Bill C-65. No, Madam Speaker, our position is to support the amendment that's on the table, not hope that the worker bees in the NDP will, after taking sufficient time off over the summer, eventually get around to coming up with their own amendment in the future.
Comments? The Honourable for Kitchener Centre.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To follow up on that point, it seems like we've got two options here. One is to get rid of the bill altogether because there's one provision in it that is inappropriate. And the other is to continue with the bill that has many important elements in it. For example, making it easier for folks to vote and advance polls. And at committee, as is often the case here, address the problematic provision. Greens, of course, would strongly support what the member for Nanaimo Ladysmith has put forward. So my question to the member for Fort York, Saskatchewan, I'm close but not quite on the mark, is why not at least support the bill, given there are other important measures in it, and address the problematic provision at the place where that's best done at committee?
Member, order. The Honourable for Sherwood Park for Saskatchewan.
Madam Speaker, here's the legislative process in a nutshell, right? It's at second reading, we look at the principle of the bill, and we determine if the principle of the bill is a principle that we want to support or not. And the principle of what the government is trying to do is they're looking for cover to delay the election. I think it's quite evident. The principle is that Liberals, the member for Kingston, the Island, and others, are reluctant to face the judgment of the electorate. That's what they're trying to do with this bill. We're not going to fall for this Liberal trick.